going to say that the transmission system is going to help, we have to document or create a monitoring system to show how the net benefit over time. So it's asking in effect for a study there. There's also an efficiency component, which is I've gotten from the Energy Center of Wisconsin discussing. They have done some fantastic research into conservation possibilities, and they suggested, from their studies, I should say, it was suggested that if we looked at comparable investments of the same amount of money that would go into CapEx 2020 and Badger Coulee and invested that in efficiencies, that the returns may indeed be much higher. I think since it is our land and our economies and our resources that would be impacted by this project, that it is our right to be able to request studies on that order. Because if it's going to be good planning, it should pass all of those tests. So that's, and then the other thing is the letter writing and the newsletter to become informed, signing to get up on the newsletter so you become part of the information. And as you develop organizations or connections on your town boards, letting us know what your news is, what you are learning, so we can conclude that and the newsletter will grow. We have 17 to 21 months to move forward patiently with quality efforts, not getting in people's faces, we don't even, one town, Viroqua, passed the resolution saying, we don't really need to have an opinion on this, whether we support it or not, because we don't even have enough information to say whether we do, right? So there's all kinds of ways to simply become part of informing ourselves and hopefully then having some impact on policy.
You can also do a lot better if you are so lucky as to want to get information from anybody that's on the staff of the PSC by being nice to them.
Yes, absolutely.
They are the nicest people to deal with.
Those letters that we have sent to the Public Service Commission showing them that we are truly not out to cause trouble, that we are out to be directed towards better policy and more citizen participation in policy. Believe me, those employees are very interested in citizens speaking up because they have kind of lost their ability to do some directive policy things since the changes in the law since '98.
Those docket files that they send to each other have their emails on too, and if you have questions about it, write to them, then they know how people are concerned and what about it.
So how do you reach them? The PS what?
When you send these cards in, the copy goes to the Public Service Commission, and the point that George is making is that it lists here, like in the address, it has the docket number. That the Badger Coulee line and the CapEx 2020 have docket numbers. And when you send this in, this becomes part of the public record of the project, and it becomes like a notice in effect that you're interacting with the developer and attempting to have do your role as a citizen, and they do appreciate that. Okay, other things?
I just got a quick question.
Please.
I'm a landowner that's impacted by one of these corridors, and I have residential and environmental concerns. But when they pick the center line, how many feet are they talking on that? On either side, 60 feet?
60 to 75.
So residential impacts, anything within that 60 to 70 feet are taken out? Or are the houses within the corridor?
If you're down to that scale right now of concern, and I know a number of people in this room that have gone through the evolutionary process of being unable to sleep to be able to work on something and to sleep again. But the point that Tom made is the networking that we're doing right now in this room and will be done in other rooms like this one will be invaluable to you in terms of getting the answers that not only, from the developer, from your local community, from the other professionals that you bring in by linking yourself to your neighbors. Get out and canvass your line. Meet your other neighbors. Take them this information. Get to know who that could agree.
Your question though is how many feet on each side of the
Are the houses going to be impacted?
The easement is, if I understand, 150 feet on each side of the proposed line.
So everything in that corridor would be taken out?
150 total? 150 total. 150 total.
75 on each.
75
So if your house lies 75 on either side of the center line, would be.
But the,
I was told last, in the lacrosse session by one of the hosts or whatever they call them, that they do not condemn, so if, and they by law cannot have a power line over a residence or a building, so that if their line were to cause the power line to be over that 75 feet, they will move the path. But if the path is 75 feet to that sidewalk, and your house is here, they have no need for it, they don't have to give any money for it, other than these.
I gotta ask again, if it's 150 feet tall, why isn't it 150 feet on either side? Because if it fell over, it would go 150 feet. Now, the reason I say this is because these guys were drilling holes in these wooden power poles in La Crosse, and I said, what are you doing? They said, well, we test these every 10 years, and if they're 65% intact, they have to be replaced in 2 years. But we did this in 1990, and these haven't been replaced yet. And some of these are down to 8%, meaning the wires are just holding up these power poles. So when I asked the ATC guys about that, they said, well, we're not concerned about Excel. And I said, but doesn't that reflect on you?
that is a reliability concern. I'll put that on the list of reliability concerns. But anyway, the point is also is that the pink line that's in there now, I've heard them recently described as a pretty good slop zone. So you can move that pink line and take your 150 feet, which parallels to what you're saying. So rather than trying to you know, figure out, you know, whether your toes are in or out, I would try to just, you know, realize that right now there's a question of whether this whole line is necessary. Focus on that, focus your neighbors on that, make those connections with your neighbors, build those bonds with your local government, because if that line should come down, your 33 or whatever it is, those ties will be invaluable to you, not only in terms of getting the answers so that everybody can join together, but in terms of sharing legal costs and a lot of other ramifications. So all of this links together, but it is a legal process, and we want to talk about, we want to use our powers, we want to play our cards in the right way at the right time. Later on, you know, I'm sure there's unfortunately a lot of time to negotiate all of these things after the application goes in and after the application is approved. You will not be rushed into these. If you look at the dockets, there are instances of interactions of Arrowhead Weston that go on 5 years after the meeting. They just dangle on forever. So now we can shift our attention to what we can do and let those other pieces lie.
Is there a decommissioning fund to remove this thing later?
You mean a Wisconsin? You mean a Wisconsin public decommission? I don't know.
No, like the Alaska Pipeline was supposed to have a decommissioning fund, and then they find out the fund is missing.
The implication is that after it gets built, and that's a...
After it wears out.
I mean, it is true that if...
Because that would be a cost on people later.
If local generation and efficiency were to, you know, become the guiding light, it would be a little difficult to be around one of these things, that's for sure. It'd be a burden. Yeah. Okay, so... Thank you so much.
It is 8 o'clock, so I think I myself, and I think several other people might have to head out, but anyone is welcome to stay around to ask questions.
A wonderful presentation. Thank you.